generations. And now, the power of two restores the one.
We got a bidet! Hey everybody, and welcome back for another video. It's been a bit, probably like 2 weeks since we've seen a movie, so we're excited to get back in here with you and start talking some movies. We did go see the new Borderlands movie. I know it's got its own popularity or lack of on Rotten Tomatoes. But we want to give you our opinions, and I do think it's important to understand where we're coming from when talking about the movie. So I want to put it out there that I have only played the Tales from the Borderlands game. And so I have an idea of the world, but I don't really know anything from the main games. So pretty much all of this was new and fresh to me. And so that's kind of where my opinion is going to be coming from. So, if I say something where, that's a big character in the games and I don't know about it, that's why. So, I'm just going to be putting that out there of where my perspective is coming from. And Sarah, you can let everybody know where yours is.
I'm pretty sure I played one of the games about 15 years ago. I don't really remember it beyond like the environment and being in the desert and kind of that what do you call that? The like high tech but
Cyberpunk-ish.
cyberpunkish. Yes, thank you. Um is that the right word?
It's kind of
Steampunk.
steampunk.
Steampunk. I'm like, I don't think it's quite cyberpunk. Cyberpunk's a different game. But no,
Cyberpunk is steampunk-ish. But
yes, it kind of, in a way. But anyway, so aside from knowing that it's like in the desert and kind of steampunk like, that's about all I really remember from it. And that and here I am already. What was Krieg? What were the other people that looked like him called? Like the
the
maniacs, the crazies, or it was something.
it was something like that. I thought it was the crazies, but
I think it's something else. But anyway, I remembered being scared of them. That's about it. That's all I really remember. Um, so yeah, I don't have a whole lot of background to go based off of either.
I think they're called the Psychos.
Psychos, yes, thank you. That's what it is.
So why would we go see the movie, right? Because like we said, it's not doing so hot, as far as ratings. But honestly, I've always been intrigued about the game. I just haven't sat down and played it yet. So there's that, and then there's also the cast members, right? I mean, we got Jamie Lee Curtis, which is huge. We got Kevin Hart. We got Jack Black. We got Kate Blanchett. So this was another person that I recognized, but Sarah and my mother-in-law weren't super aware of. But Janina Gavankar, I think is her last name. She was in Star Wars Battlefront 2 as Iden Verso, and so it was really cool to see her there as well. But I'm sure there. Oh, and there's one other one that's pretty big. Ariana Greenblatt. She plays Tiny Tina, but we also know her from the movie Barbie and also the Ahsoka show. So a lot of big names here, but there's a mix, right? There's up and coming, there's people that are kind of in the middle, and then there's, big stars that have been around for a long time. So kind of going off of that, I mean, it sounds pretty good, right? And then I heard the director was Eli Roth, and I'm a fan of his project, so that too, I was excited to get in here. So What did we think? I mean, it's
The trailer
non-spoiler.
just made it seem like it was going to be just a good time, you know?
Right. So, what's our non-spoiler thoughts? Well, I would say it was interesting. I don't think there was anything that was like super plot twisty or super shocking. Some of the humor landed, some of it was not the greatest, but I would say there was a decent amount where we got a little chuckle out of it. Um, I think Jack Black's character, the little robot, I think that he kind of carried the movie for us. Um, but there's reasons for that, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in the spoilers. Let's just say that, there's some characters that I feel like we would have had more time with and got to, let their acting and comedic abilities flourish here a little bit more, just like Jack Black, but they're not part of the film nearly as much as we had wanted them to. So there's some things with that going on. Visually, it's kind of hit or miss. Some of the visuals are, in my opinion, really good. And then there's some that aren't very good. So I feel like it wasn't super consistent as far as maybe the CGI or the green screens that they were using. I don't know if they used practical effects with any of these sets. Some of them kind of looked like they could have been, but the majority of them looked like they were probably green screened. Um, trying to think. I feel like it's kind of a cookie cutter story. It's like I said, it's nothing too crazy. Didn't really subvert many expectations, but it was okay. It was a decent one watch. I don't really think I'm gonna go back to watching this a second time. The only reason why I think I would is if I play the games and then try to see it from a different lens, or if there's a sequel that comes out and we might have to remember a few things. That's like probably one of the two reasons why I would go back to see this. But what were your thoughts, Sarah?
I had the trailer playing in the background because I didn't remember what all we knew going in, like what was okay for non-spoiler section. So one of the scenes that I thought the CGI was really bad, and you kind of see this in the trailer when they're sliding off the bus. In the trailer, it's so quick because, trailers do a lot of quick scene cuts because they just want to show you a tiny taste of a lot of things. But in the actual scene, it looked so silly. It looked so cartoonish. And I almost kind of got that vibe a lot throughout the film. Not so much the like, oh my gosh, that looks silly as this one particular scene, but like maybe a third of the way through the movie, I'm like, this feels like video game cutscenes or like arcade cutscenes. Like I'm playing an arcade game, we're doing some action, and then you got a cutscene of getting to the next place. And then you got some action, and then you're doing a cutscene to get to the next place. That's kind of almost the feeling that it had. Just the waves of action versus plot and then action and then plot. It reminded me a lot of an arcade game, which is kind of interesting because it's based on a video game, right? So um had a hard time deciphering like, do I like that? Do I not like that? It's almost like I'm playing the game, but I'm not really playing the game. I don't know. Overall, I think the movie was all right. I don't think it was like super spectacular. I think the cast really carried it. And honestly, kind of especially Jack Black's with Claptrap, the little robot dude. I feel like he carried a lot of it too. Um, the rest of the casting was all right. I did like Tiny Tina. I thought she did a good job. Or Ariana did a good job as Tiny Tina. I thought that just her overall vibe was pretty cool to get along with. And it seemed very steampunk like. Like even though she didn't have like maybe a typical steampunk outfit, like she seemed to have that kind of a vibe of like go with the flow, but then also crazy chaotic at the same time. And if you've played the games and you know that she's like that, maybe it seems kind of silly for me to be noticing that. But again, I had played the games in a very long time, and I definitely don't remember her character if she was even a part of the game that I played, because I don't remember which one I played. But I don't know. I feel like it was an okay movie. I don't think it was really super spectacular. Are you cool with just going to ratings?
Well, there's one more thing I wanted to mention before we get there is that
All right.
one of the things that I think was a little bit of a misstep, for one, the games are rated M, okay?
Mhm.
And which means they're there for violence, swearing, you name it. And the director, Eli Roth, he's also known for some pretty bloody movies. So I think it might have been a small misstep to maybe try to cater to a younger audience, because I'm pretty sure this was PG-13, wasn't it?
It is.
Yeah, so I don't quite understand that. Maybe they felt, with what they had, that that kind of effect wouldn't have been enough, but
It makes me wonder if that's because they wanted to have more of a comedic spin to it than the actual game, because I don't know if the games are really that comedic.
I don't know. From what I've heard is that they kind of are, but I don't know. But what I also wanted to mention is it kind of had like an Expendables effect to me. So if you are familiar with those films, the first two movies were rated R and they got to do all the cool things that they wanted with that. And then they did a PG-13 version of the film with the third movie, and that lost a lot of money and a lot of fans. And then when they went back to rated R, it actually did not pay off at all. I've seen Expendables 4. I've talked about it here on the channel, and you can go back and see my video of all the different displeasures I had with that movie. And I mean, this movie is a little bit better than Expendables 4. There wasn't anything I was expecting out of it. So I think that kind of helps it a little bit. But at the same time, um, it was just an okay movie. But yeah, let's roll into ratings really quick.
Oh, I
Uh,
thought of one more thing I want to add now.
well, goodness gracious.
So we not not spoiler. We start off the movie with somebody kind of describing what's going on, and it's like a narration, right? And we later find out that it's Lilith talking about, what's going on with her life and whatnot. When I first heard her voice, I thought it was Jane Lynch, which I know her from Wreck-It Ralph, and she was also in Glee. I know it sounds weird to say I know her from Wreck-It Ralph when she's from Glee, because I think her role in Glee was much bigger than Wreck-It Ralph, but that's what I know her from. But anyway, so I feel like their voices sound very similar, and I was kind of nervous because I didn't really remember the trailer going into this. I just remember thinking like, it'll be a fun movie. I'm really glad it wasn't her. It's nothing against her. It's just I feel like her vibe would not have fit this movie very well. And so I feel like Kate Blanchett did a pretty decent job of having fulfilling her character of Lilith. Again, not really knowing how Lilith is supposed to be in like the video games and stuff, but I feel like she could hold her own in here.
Nice. What would you give the movie out of 10?
I was struggling back and forth between a 4 and a 5 because I feel like it's a pretty average film, but that one scene with the bus was just so cringy of how it just looked so silly, and that honestly the narration was almost kind of boring at first because it seemed like somebody was telling you a story instead of showing you a story. But I think I'm gonna stick with a 5. It's a pretty average film. I feel like there was enough comedy to kind of balance that out. I did have some characters that I like seeing. Um, I thought it was really strange with some of the outfit choices for Jamie Lee Curtis in a particular scene or two. It was very weird to see her in an outfit of that style, and I'm just gonna leave it at that to avoid spoilers. Uh, Not that that's really a plot spoiler.
It's
It
it's
just
not really a spoiler. So there is a outfit she wears that has a decent amount of cleavage, which was I thought that was pretty interesting too. I was like, go get it, rock it, girl.
I mean, she was rocking it. It's just I've never seen her in an outfit like that. It was kind of out there and like almost like you can't believe she's the one who was wearing that shirt. But she rocked it. She did great. But no, I feel like for every good thing this film had, there was equally a not so great thing that kind of it's I'm settling at a 5.
I'm sitting at a 4. I think it's slightly below average. I like I said, this isn't a movie I think I will go back to unless it's for science in a way. If I play the game and want to, watch it, like I said, with a different lens, or if there's maybe a sequel. But it's unfortunate that we had such a star-studded cast, and I feel like their potential wasn't even close to being met. We I know Kevin Hart has his style, Jack Black has his style, Jamie Lee Curtis has her style. Everybody has their own styles. But I just feel like if I were to compare this to Jumanji, I feel like they have a lot more fun comedic moments together. Like the chemistry is way higher than what's going on here. Granted, I know those characters are supposed to be friends already, and this is just kind of a group that gets thrown together. But at the same time, I feel like these actors and actresses should have been able to play off of each other a lot more and have some more fun with it. Because then us as the audience will have a lot more fun too. So I'm sitting at a 4. So let's transition to spoilers. It is interesting that it's kind of like what Sarah said. We get like a little bit of story, we get an action sequence, a little bit more story, action sequence, that kind of binds all those things together. But yeah, so Lilith is trying to find, well, yeah,
She's a bounty hunter.
she's a bounty hunter. She's trying to find Tiny Tina. And what we kind of learn about Tiny Tina before the movie really gets rolling is that she was on a space station for Atlas, which is kind of the people that run the show. I think they're the government. Um, maybe not.
I think it's more like
Like Apple or
no, like
Google.
Jabba the Hutt. Like they're the crime lords.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe we misread that. So don't
Not
destroy it.
not crime lords, but more like they run things because they can because they have money, not because they're the actual government.
Hmm. Okay. So Kevin Hart's character Roland, he goes to try to um take Tiny Tina, and he does. He captures her, and along the way, also Krieg, our psycho dude, he meets up with them as well and breaks out during the whole sequence, and they take off to the planet Pandora. So then we have eventually, in present time, Lilith is a bounty hunter, and she eventually gets this job from Atlas himself to go and find Tiny Tina. And
I
so,
I Googled it. Atlas is a weapons manufacturing corporation.
gotcha. Thank you for that. So yeah, she's going to do some bounty hunting stuff. She's going to go find Tiny Tina. Eventually, she does meet up with Tiny Tina, and uh, Psycho is still, or Krieg, I should say, still hanging out around her. I think they're kind of living together, not in the same building, but they're like neighbors.
They became friends because he also was part of the prison break from when Roland got Tiny Tina out of prison.
Right. And then Roland also gets mixed into the process here. We do also get Claptrap along the way. So Claptrap stumbles across Lilith while she was camping out one night having a campfire, and I guess Claptrap has some sort of like life debt situation to Lilith where unless she dies, he always serves her. Because there's even a couple of remarks throughout the movie where he's like, "Is she dead? Am I free? No? Oh, okay. I guess we got to do this some more," kind of a thing, which is, I thought that was kind of funny. Um, but our group eventually comes together, and they're basically, so they find out that Tiny Tina is supposedly the key to unlocking a vault on Pandora. Don't they go to find what's her name? What's her name?
Tannis, Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah, her character. So they go to find her to get some more information on things. and that's where we learn a bunch of exposition um, about the vault, and I think we learn a bit more about Lilith too, a little bit, as far as her background.
Hmm.
Maybe did you want to say something?
No, I'm just debating between how much do we actually talk about versus glaze over because, like you said, so much of it is the characters talking and finding out more about one another. Then there's some sort of action sequence because Atlas is like on their case trying to find them, and there's a bounty for Roland, and Atlas is trying to find them, and so we get some character development, and then we get an encounter with Atlas, and then we kind of go back and forth. I don't know that we really need to go over every scenario that they encounter. But one thing I am going to bring up though is when Lilith finds Tina, she mentions that Roland hasn't been around. Roland, who's played by Kevin Hart, right? She mentions that Roland hasn't been around in a while, and which we find out later was a lie because she just wanted to get Lilith out of there. But Roland's kind of gone a lot in this film for being advertised as one of the main members of like the group. Like we see him a little bit in the beginning, then he's gone for a bit and he comes back, but later in the film we have an encounter with a group of psychos and he kind of does the whole like I'm gonna stay behind so that you guys can escape. But then that means that like while we're with the rest of the group, we don't see him again for a while, and so he keeps being. I feel like he's supposed to be a main character and is really kind of a background character.
Yeah, which is also a big issue with Expendables 4. That's kind of like that effect. And also, um, and that's taking out one of the big comedic actors for a good chunk of the film. Because, I mean, if you're going to see Kevin Hart, you're going to be very disappointed to know that he's probably in about half the movie, maybe a little over half. But yeah, and it's sprinkled throughout. It's not like he's in the first half and then he's gone the whole rest of the time. It's just like little spurts. So, um, yeah, so they talked to Tanis about some information, and then because Roland has a bounty on his head, the Atlas crew tries to take them down, but then they get away. That's when we first meet Knox, which is played by Janina, that I mentioned in the beginning, that is in the Battlefront 2 game. She's kind of the head of the group that's trying to chase them down. They do get away, of course, and then eventually they run into like a big gang of psychos, and it's kind of funny because they're like, how are we going to get around these dudes? And Claptrap is basically indestructible, and so he decides to be, a distraction. He goes out there, and they're just pelting him with bullets, and he just won't go down. And maybe this is in the well, I assume this is probably in the game, but I thought it was kind of interesting. Like after he was pelted and had like all these bullet holes, I guess one of his things he can do is basically shed and have a new um solid amount of the metal, like his exoskeleton of metal.
It was
Um,
like a snake shedding its skin, like, all right, I'm brand new now.
yeah, like a fresh coat of paint. So I thought that was kind of cool. Um, but I mean, like we were saying, now let's just jump all the way. They do a bunch of action sequences, and they eventually get to the vault, and well, the vault area. And it turns out that Tiny Tina actually is not the one to open the vault. It's instead Lilith, right? So even though Tiny Tina tries to open it, it doesn't work. Lilith shows up, and Atlas shows up too. Basically, like, hey, you're gonna open that vault, and I will let everybody free. I won't hurt a single person if you open that vault. And so she goes to open the vault, and she turns in, again, not played the game, so I don't fully understand this whole sequence, but she basically turned into like a phoenix. Like she rose up and she got these flame wings. Do you remember what they called her for that? Or if there was a name?
There was, I don't remember.
Because I guess that's another thing to kind of knock on this movie is that I think sometimes there's a little bit too much assumption that you maybe played the games, just because a lot of these details aren't filled in, and they're like the world building isn't always, flourished. Um, but yeah, she gets these fiery rings. She's kind of like I said, very similar to a phoenix. And then there's a big action sequence starts. Eventually, what it boils down to is that Atlas has Tiny Tina at gunpoint, and so Lilith agrees to take him into the vault to let her go. And when they're in the vault, of course, there's a whole bunch of treasures. There's also a creature in there, and Atlas has been wearing like this bulletproof invisible shield thing this entire time. And Lilith is able to sneak in, take the thing out of his coat pocket, and then the creature that's in the vault eats him. And so, you gonna say something?
Do you remember them saying that she's a siren?
I don't.
So this is kind of off topic from what you were just describing from a plot point, but to me, a siren is a mermaid. It's somebody who, or a mermaid that like sings to lull seamen to their death, right? So that they crash into the rocks and they die. But when I Googled Borderlands Lilith Phoenix, because I was trying to figure out what the name was that they called her, and I did not find that because I came up with a lot of video game lore, but I found out that she is a siren class. And she's one of six sirens, which in the game is a group, or in the game lore, it's a group of women with unbelievable powers. So that's why they called her a siren, is because of her phoenix powers. And when you level up her skill tree, one of her powers is phoenix and dealing fire damage or something like that.
Interesting. I made the Phoenix thing up. I guess that was part of it. That's pretty cool.
Well, I mean that is what she looked like. It's just to me it's kind of neat to see what we picked up on and then making sense of it in like what we were supposed to pick up on.
Yeah. So they do leave the vault, everything is fine and dandy. They're partying with their friends, and the movie basically closes out soon after that. Um, I will say, like, I feel like this movie kind of felt like a Guardians of the Galaxy movie in a way, but it definitely didn't have the character development or charisma charm that movie had. So
The soundtrack
I
wasn't as great.
I feel like they should have put a little bit more money into it and allowed the characters in the game lore to come through a little bit more, and that would have probably helped it. Um, but I just feel like there was too much surface information and not enough like under the iceberg, if that makes sense.
Well, like Tina and her stuffed animal bombs, I thought those were really cool and
Yeah.
fun. But like we only saw it like two or three times and we didn't like I want to see her program these things. I want to see her tinkering with these things. I want to see her creating these things. Something to kind of prove out that like she actually knows what she's doing.
Yeah, like she has a Build-A-Bear non-fluffed rabbit there, and then she has her little explosives that she's shoving in it, kind of a thing.
Something, anything. I think it would have been neat to see.
Yeah, I could see that being pretty cool. Oh, I also like some of the weapons. Lilith's character had like a revolver that was spinning as she was shooting. That was pretty cool. So I did like some of the weapons, but
Their weird electronic masks were kind of neat
yeah, those were
when they
cool.
were when they were trying to hide out in the town and not be known.
Yeah.
It was almost like a
Well,
hologram over their face.
that's when we first met Tanis, Jamie Lee Curtis's character. That's when that all started happening. So, is there anything else you wanted to mention about the movie?
Uh, just going back to what I said earlier, of if I kind of feel like Jack Black carried this movie a little bit, just because although Kate Blanchett did a good job of not feeling like she cares about anything, it made you feel like I shouldn't be caring about anything either. And I feel like her I don't care attitude was just a little too strong. I feel like I didn't really get any heart from her, even though she kind of changed a little towards the end to care about some stuff. I didn't really feel it.
I
Um,
don't personally feel that way, but I also think maybe a little bit more of that lore building maybe would have helped it. Maybe understand a little bit more. Like we get from it that, she lost her mom at a very young age, but that's about it. I mean, that's all we have to go by. What else did she go through? And I mean, that's when she was younger. What did she go through from being young to where we're seeing her? There's got to be something along that time frame that, has shaped her to be who she is in modern or in present day. So,
well, and if she's dealing with like anger or being upset or something, like at least that would have been an emotion to show instead of just, I don't care.
yeah. All right. Well, that was our little talk on the new Borderlands movie. Sarah gave it a 5.
5.
I gave it a 4. So that's kind of where we're coming from. And like I said, I haven't played any of the games, so that's kind of like a really fresh perspective. Those that have the knowledge of the games, there's a chance you probably didn't like it more than we did because I don't know. I've heard a lot of people that are gamers are saying that, it just wasn't quite the representation they wanted of the game, but it is what it is. If you enjoyed this type of video, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Drops a like if you like the video and drops a comment letting us know your thoughts on Borderlands. And then, as always, everybody, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.